not really like something else.
Oh, index funds?
No. It's something like that. So you did.
Hold on. Let me see if the. Oh, it's not connected.
For some reason this time we're going to hit this square. That's great.
Use all Trump's bad news things more.
Oh, you're going to steal all the explosives, like screwing up, like stealing like that?
Yeah, whenever he says more terrorists, stock market.
And let's.
I want to buy it.
Okay.
As long as I have enough liquidity in them.
All right, everyone. Let's get started. So, thank you guys all for coming in. This is the Computer Engineering SJSU Summer Internship Program for 2019. I did one of these last year, and actually I think it went out pretty well. We had various different projects. This year we're slimming it down to just one particular platform we're going to be working on. And we're going into that in a little bit. And actually before we get, I forgot that I need to make sure that the guys on on the video call can actually see what I'm presenting. Oh. All right, yeah, entire screen. Okay, cool. Should be able to see me now. Okay. So a bit of an overview of what we're going to be going over. And can you guys actually see the screen, or is that really difficult to see?
A little dark.
Let me try turning off the lights and see if that helps. Probably helps a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, so the first thing I'm going to go over is what is the CmpE Summer Internship Program? What is SJSU Dev 2? When you guys saw the posting on general, it was most likely talking about SJSU Dev 2. There was a bit of research in there too. I'll go into that probably after the presentation. I'm also going to go over what this can do for you. So what is the benefit of you guys being part of this? Types of assignments that are available, the development platform or the development process in a very high level. We'll go into more detail about this in the next week when we do our training. A QA session, if you guys have any questions that I've not gone through and answered during the presentation, you guys can answer them then. And that's pretty much the agenda. So the first thing off is, what is the CmpE Summer Internship? Before getting started on that, I want to at least tell you guys a little about myself. Some of you guys might know me already, but some of you guys may not. I see some unfamiliar faces. So number one and foremost, I'm a volunteer lab instructor for the CmpE 146 course. So if you're a computer engineer, you'll probably end up seeing me in your last year of your undergraduate. I'm also a Google full-time employee, and I work on Wear OS. Specifically, it's the Android watch operating system, and I usually do low-level firmware stuff for that. But on top of this, I also support the CmpE department as a curriculum and lab process manager in a sense. I'm really just trying to do as much as I can to improve this department wherever I can. A little bit more of my history at SJSU. I was the president of SCE in 2014. Currently I act as like the historian of SCE, and I'm also going to be the executive advisor for this coming up year. I was also part of the robotics team. I was the president and project lead for about 3 years during my time, well, 4 years when I was there. And that's pretty much like a little glimpse of what I do and what I do here. So, what is the CmpE Summer Internship? It's a few things. The whole point of doing this in general, and number one and probably foremost, is the fact that I want to give an opportunity for engineers, and you guys, I consider all of you guys engineers at this point, an opportunity to gain technical work experience on a large project. This internship was originally created for people who could not get internships. There was one summer basically last summer, where there's a lot of people looking for jobs, and there weren't that many jobs to fill those positions. And a lot of people still wanted to spend their time being able to get some type of work experience in some sort, working on some project, working on enhancing their skills, but some of them didn't really have any type of guidance on that. And that's why I decided to generate and create the internship program for them. Not saying that you guys are like that, because there are people who are alumni who are still participating in this. There are people who are still in industry who are full-time who are still participating in this. This thing's open to any and all people. That's just the original intent. And if you fit in the category of like doing some part-time and stuff like that, this is totally fine. You can still be part of this opportunity. Another point of this was also to improve the quality of software in our industry. This one's a bit bold of a statement, but for the most part, what I've gotten from almost all the people that have been in the internship is that when they go out to their companies, they say, yeah, man, I really wish the code was more like the code we did in the internship. The code we have here is garbage. Throughout most companies, the software that they have is pretty terrible. One of the things that Google actually is, even though some people look at Google as like, oh, they have the best code, the best software, and they have the best software engineers, that is true, or at least I feel that that is true. But even on the inside, we always look at our code and say, no, it's terrible code. We can make it so much better. So there's always this push to be better and to do better. A lot of industries don't think about that though. At least at Google, it's proactive that we try to make our software better. And my hope is that when people leave this place, they take some of the things that I taught them to their companies and try to improve the software there. Because you could be working on things like biomedical devices and autonomous cars and anything that, maybe some big machinery that could end up, harming someone or injuring someone. So having better quality code ends up helping with that. I also want to improve the quality of the engineers leaving this program. So I believe that the people who left out of the internship gained a lot of really strong technical skills from it. And they also made our school look a lot better. I typically give out referrals, or not referrals, I act as a referral for people after the internship if they've gotten their assignments done. And typically, those guys usually shoe-ins to get into whatever place they apply for. And it makes our university look good when we're going out there and doing really good stuff out there. More on the technical side, it's to develop a modern modular platform for students and engineers to use on their embedded projects. The hope is that this platform could be used, the SJ Dev platform could be used for people's senior projects. But then hopefully they'll then go, you know what? We might want to use SimSys. If you guys don't know what that is, it's fine. For our company, or maybe they already use that, but I know this one platform that was really good and does this stuff really quickly and it's awesome. Maybe they'll go and try to use that for their companies. And I believe finally, improve the experience of the students who are using this platform for the courses. The code may not be the dumbest looking code, but it is code that if someone looks at, they can aspire to try to understand it. They can aspire to try to get their code to look like what we have within the code base. We also want to make sure that it's designed in such a way that it's easy for them to be able to develop with, so that they feel like, oh, I can just take the SJ1 or SJ2 or whatever board I have and just whip up something with it, versus having to fight the platform to get to where they want to go. Another thing I want to go into is time commitment. I get this question asked all the time, so I decided to make a slide to it. Everyone's always asking, how long this is going to take, how much of my time do I have to spend on the internship if I'm a part of this? And for the most part, you work when you want to. I'm not really going to be, I'll probably ask you on occasions if you're blocking someone else, like, hey, you're blocking someone else, this would be really great if you can get some progress on this so they can kind of take wherever your code is right now and use it for their thing. Also, it's kind of on the way right now, so it shouldn't block too many people for the most part. Things should be pretty isolated. But regardless, I really want you guys to be able to work on this as you please. So you don't have to feel like you're bogged down, like, oh, I got to make sure I come in at 8 to 9 to work on this thing. No. If you want to do that, that's absolutely fine. You can do that. But it's whenever you find your free time that you'd like to work on this project. You're expected to manage your own time. Although there's a few of you guys than last year, there's still a lot of you guys, and for the most part, you guys are engineers, you guys are adults now. I think you guys can manage your time. You guys can manage getting your assignments done for classes. You guys can manage getting your assignment done for this internship. But if you do want guidance, I can help you plan out when you should get certain phases done. But it's still up to you to really do the hard work of keeping yourself on schedule. And I'd highly recommend putting quite a bit of time and effort into your first assignment to kind of get an idea of what it's like to do an assignment. Then after that, you can figure out, oh, this doesn't take me that long to get this assignment done. I can do it this way. Or, that took quite a while. I need to kind of make sure I schedule this time in to be able to finish this assignment. That's that for time commitment. And actually, I'm going to do one little check. It's a little late here. Everyone on the video call can hear me, correct? No issues there? Okay, cool. Just wanted to double check. I don't think I did a check before I actually started the presentation. All right, so now finally we're gonna get into the SJ Dev environment. Raise of hands, how many of you guys have actually used either SJ Dev or SJ Dev 2 in your experience at San Jose State? Okay, so it's almost everyone. A couple people who don't have that, okay? All right, so what is it? It used to be, as I used to call it last year, it used to be a firmware framework for the SJ2 development board. That's what it used to be. But as we continue to work on it, as we continue to kind of see what it could become, we realized that doesn't seem adequate anymore. Now, SJDev 2 is a platform for building portable cross-system applications for embedded systems. A lot of use of the word system here, but for the most part, I'm going to break this down for you. I moved away from calling SJDev a framework and made it more of a platform because of the fact that, in the next slide, I'm actually going to talk about that it's a bit of an anti-framework. We're not trying to dictate how you design your code, we're just giving you libraries that you can use for your code. So it kind of gives you the framework or the platform to build stuff up from. You can build whatever framework you like with this platform. We're also trying to build it so it's portable, so that you could write your code. This is the hope, this is the desire, this is the goal. So you'll write your code for the SJ2 board, then also have that same bit of code port over to an SJ1 board, do a little bit of extra code to do the glue logic between the different boards, and have it work on an Arduino as well. And you could just compile the same thing over and over again with one build flag specifying at Mega, or LPC17XX, or LPC17 or 40XX. And that'll switch between the three. And then lastly, embedded systems. I think most people probably understand what embedded systems are, but basically any type of system in which you embed a processor into it to do some type of task, usually mechanical or electromechanical. When you get SJDev 2, it'll come with these things, startup code, so you don't have to worry about doing all the interrupt service routine stuff to get the thing up and running. This startup code is what calls your main in the end. A bootloader. The bootloader is currently not cross-platform, but I do want to develop it in such a way that it becomes cross-platform. Peripheral drivers, I2C, PWM, GPIO, stuff like that. External device drivers, being able to talk to a temperature sensor, to an accelerometer, to whatever else you'd like to work on. And then tons of other libraries, mostly like utilities like that. We may not have all this completely yet, but this is the dream, this is the goal. We do have quite a bit of these, but only for one platform, the LPC40XX, and a few of these guys. So a bit on the design philosophy. So whenever you're designing anything for SJDev 2, keep these things in mind. A couple of these are kind of just built into the framework, so don't think about them too much, but some of these you do have to think about. For example, one is to kind of keep it simple, at least with respect to the end user who's going to be using it. The API, what the user has to use or has to pull into their code in order to make your code work, should be as simple as possible. It may be a bit verbose, but it should at least be simple cognitively. It shouldn't take too much cognitive load to be able to understand how to do something. And if you're designing something that is a little bit on the weird side, maybe get some type of like weird optimization, I'd usually tell you, yeah, maybe not. Let's let the compiler do the optimizations for us. Next one is modern. Just curious, has anyone ever set the standard for their compiler to anything other than what's default? Has anyone ever put in -std equals C++17? Got like 2 people. So there's a whole gigantic world of things that you can do in the language beyond what you might have been just taught in your classes. During design reviews, most likely I want to bring those things up. When you look at other code that we have, you'll probably see these things as well. So this is not just simply so that we can have the code be on bleeding edge, just because of the fact that the features that this version of C++, actually above 14, the features that it gives you make your code more optimal, or at least they give you the ability to make your code more optimal. Probably more on that in the following week when we have our next meeting. But for the most part, the idea is to keep it modern and to use the new features when they come out that can then benefit us to make our code better. Oh, and actually, if you guys have any questions at all, just ping. And if you're on the video chat, just unmute yourself and then just kind of say hey. Next one is lightweight. The idea here is for the binary that you build, the executable that you build at the end after you've compiled your code, to be as small as possible. The smaller we make the libraries, the bigger people can build up their own platforms on top of us. if we end up taking up half of the memory in order to just be ourselves, just to be the framework, the other people who are using us can only use the other portion for their own thing. So I want to make sure that we're as lightweight as possible. And there's a philosophy that I have for this entire project, which is only, how should I say this? You only get what you use. For example, if you were trying to use I2C, and let's say I2C needs to pull in some other dependencies, that's fine. But if there's a dependency that it pulls in that adds space to your binary, that didn't need to be there, and it's bloating up your size of your binary, that needs to be fixed. That needs to be removed. That needs to be refactored. So anytime there's any additional information that's not actually used during runtime, it needs to be stripped out. It needs to be multi-platform. Now, some people see this and they go, oh, it means you can compile your code on Windows, Linux, Mac, or something like that. What it really means is that you can compile for an Arduino, for a RISC-V processor, for any of the ARM processors, for any microcontroller that kind of exists. The idea is that you should be able to compile for them and hopefully have code that actually provides for them. Another one of these, this doesn't really fit the sequence of all the other ones, but basically have fast builds. There are a couple of includes and a couple of things here and there that I recommend against because of the fact that it increases the time it takes to compile the code. I'll probably go into this later on, but for the most part, there might be some slight weirdness in the libraries that you'll end up noticing. You'll think, okay, why are we doing it this way? Or why didn't we? Oh, this is one library that we could use that does this. Most likely, it's not there or being used in a certain way. That increases the build time. One of these things is that we actually do header-only libraries for all SJDev2 libraries, versus compiling every single file. The time it takes to go through each compilation unit ends up adding way too much to the build time, so we have removed those compilation units. Tested and testable. A lot of times people don't think that they can test firmware, that they cannot test their code that goes onto a chip, that they have to test it manually. We do not believe that in SJDev2. You should be able to test your code on the host side, on your laptop, at least adequately enough to verify that the actions that your code is supposed to take do actually happen on the registers that they are trying to control. So we have methods on how to do that. Now they may not, if there's an issue with the hardware, if there's some difference between how you expected the hardware to act and how you programmed it, that's a different thing. That does require some testing. But otherwise, you should be able to write tests on your laptop and have them run and simulate testing the actual hardware. And lastly, SJDev2 is an anti-framework. Right? That means that it does not force your hand when it comes to anything. If you want to design your code to use some other RTOS, sure, go for it. If you want to use the code and you want to basically, forego all the peripheral libraries, it's like they just want to write it straight. The only thing that'll be pulled in is the startup code. Beyond that, the rest is up to you. The idea here is that if you don't use FreeRTOS, if you don't use any of the peripherals, your binary size should be as minimal as absolutely possible. We don't try to build up this framework of how you communicate and how you do things. That's up to you to design. We may have them available for you to use if you'd like to, but we don't force that on you by default when you try to compile for SJDev2. All right, and probably my favorite slide, the vision of SJDev2 and what I want it to become. I would like this in the future to be a one-stop shop for developers, for developing software, for microcontrollers, or single board computers. Meaning you can write your code on a Raspberry Pi and it still work. You can write your code on your Linux machine if you at least have some type of implementation of a GPIO. That would still work. It is that you should be able to write embedded-like code really on any platform because there's no reason why we can't have that. I also want it to be an end-to-end means for embedded systems rapid development and production development. What that means is you can go and use it just to get something put together really quickly. We could also use it for your project that you're going to end up selling, maybe on Amazon, maybe on Tindy, maybe for your own company. Maybe bring it into small departments at Intel or Western Digital, or what's the company you work at, Nelson? Metro Robotics. It's also meant to be used as a teaching tool. I kind of want to remove people's dependence and usage of the Arduino libraries. if you ask anyone in the embedded field, they'll tell you, yeah, Arduino is not really firmware. There's a lot of things that kind of not only abstracts away, but doesn't really do for you, or does a little too much for you, or doesn't really fit well with the mold of most embedded programming. So if people could end up using this as their teaching tool for their courses, that'd be fantastic. The hope would be that it gets so popular to the point where people would be like, you know what, I know this other companies are using this, it'd be good for us to use it for our courses. I would love for this to be a platform for people to use for the senior projects. I'm actually going to be developing a SJ2 Mini Revision B, or B version. We had one for last year's summer internship. And that was great and cool, but I wanted to add more features to it. Make it more usable for senior projects. So basically you could take the functionality that you got from your SJ2 board and be able to throw it into your project at a smaller form factor. So it's really easy just to throw in there and use. It would also be open so that you don't actually have to like buy it from SEE or anything like that. You could just find the Gerber files online and just order them, and then go and buy the actual cart of all the parts you need and then put it together yourself. It hopefully will be designed in such a way that makes it decently easy to solder. Have it be used for commercial companies for prototyping and product launching. And this is a big one for me. Further progress in the adoption of C++ in the embedded world. Has anyone ever heard this statement that C++ is too bulky and too bloated, it can't be used for embedded systems? Anyone ever heard that before? Raise your hands. So we have like 3 hands. The fact that that's a thing still, and the fact that most likely when you go to your work, if you're doing embedded systems, and they say, oh, we use C here, you may ask, oh, why don't we use C++? They'll then go and tell you, oh, it's because it's too bloated. We need to have high performance. After C++ 14, that is no longer a legitimate argument. There may be a couple libraries that you have to refrain yourself from using in order to make it be optimal size and time-wise. But generally, C++ is just as fast and actually faster than using implementations that are just in C. Honestly, this one, they're all get compiled down in assembly anyway. And lastly, to keep and continue to have this development platform be free and open to the masses so anyone can contribute, anyone can work on it, anyone can use it for their projects. Whether they are commercial, whether they be just doing their own little project for personal projects. All right, so where do we stand now? Well, we don't really support one microcontroller, the SJ2 board for the most part. I did get it to compile for the LPC40XX, but it does hard fault after a couple stages within the program, so I'm still fixing that. So we technically have some support for the LPC17XX. We support 15 hardware abstractions, so like different types of like buttons, LEDs, temperature modules, stuff like that, that's supported. We have rudimentary graphics library, and we have a command line interface. That's pretty much it. So there's a lot more work that needs to be done on this platform. That's where you guys come in. Okay, so what can this internship do for you? One of the things it can do for you is give you work experience. There have been quite a few people who did this internship that used this as a line item on the resume. And this is not, just because it's something that's been run by the university does not mean that it's not real work. At the end of this, you'll have something on your GitHub. And actually, that's the next bullet right now. This is real work and real experience that you're gaining here. You build up your GitHub repository or portfolio. I don't know if you guys know this, but GitHub is an extremely useful resource. If you put any of your own personal projects onto your GitHub, people can go over, they can look at those projects, and they can examine and see, okay, where's this guy's code? What does it look like? Does this look like decent code? Does it look like a decent project? I can kind of learn a lot from an individual by looking at their GitHub. And if it looks like you have worked on open source, that also gives you a lot when it comes to your GitHub. Oh, this person is not just working on their own separate code, because anyone can just write their own little project. They are contributing to another project that has stringent and rigorous testing and also rigorous requirements. So that kind of shows, okay, this person can work on a team. This person can work with a larger platform than their own code on their own. Gives you experience working on a larger project. With a larger project comes a lot of standards. Well, at least they should, but it comes with a lot of standards, comes with a lot of requirements for it. And you'll get exposure working on a project that's a lot bigger than simply just a little personal project that you worked on for your classes and such. You'll go through code reviews. This is good because most of you guys may have gone through your entire college career and never really had anyone review your code. I know I didn't really have anyone review my code. Yeah, you get a grade for your code, but that's because of the fact that we have to get graded. But they look at to see if it works, not really to see if you designed it properly. You may have had the one-off TA who might have, or ISA, who looked through your code and said, yeah, you can maybe do this a little better. But for this code base, I will be very, very meticulous about whatever you submit. Whatever you submit needs to go through me, and it needs to fit our standards. And actually, before it even hits me, there's an automated system that'll go and verify that your code fits our standards. And if it does not, it won't even ping me to say that you're even ready. You'll learn how to properly test. Not only will you learn how to test your code just in general, and also how to test C++ code, but you also learn how to test embedded platforms, or at least on a host test that's a good reflection about what's happening on the hardware. So by the end of this, you'll learn how to properly test your code. And I believe there's another page for this, but you'll gain a deeper understanding about embedded platforms, about C++, about a lot of different things. Depending on what you're working on, I may give you certain comments, and we usually want to give comments. I leave links to resources that I found that are kind of like my basis of knowledge, or I might send in some example code showing you what something means. For example, people think that the inline, if you guys have seen this before, people think that inline, if you do inline keyword in a function or a variable, that it optimizes it in C++. That's not true. It doesn't do anything in C++. The compiler can choose to do something with it or not, but it means something in C. There's compile optimizations there, but it doesn't mean anything in C++. So those kind of little tidbits here and there that you might learn that'll really kind of, you'll learn that little tidbit, but you also think, oh wait, what do I not know about this particular thing? And after the completion of an assignment, I will assist you in the following things. Resume assistance, interview preparation, career advice, and potentially a referral to Google. This is kind of rare. If you put a lot of effort and time into the project, and I get to see that you are a really strong engineer, and someone who I think would be good at Google, I may also give you a referral to Google. This is by no means a guarantee. These ones I will guarantee if you do work on this project. This one, if you are very spectacular. But don't think there's any limit or any type of competition to this. If every one of you guys does extremely well during this internship, and I feel could work at Google, I'd be more than happy to give a referral to all you guys. That also counts for internships. Types of assignments available. So when working on SJDev2, there are a set of assignments that you can work on. They go by level and then a little category name. For example, we have level 0 platform. This involves developing specific code for the platform. It's usually startup code. Most likely, no one in here will be working on startup code, or maybe a few people who are more experienced. But it's usually pretty meticulous and a little bit on the difficult side, and you really do have to be really good when it comes to embedded debugging for the most part. L1 peripheral. This involves developing peripheral drivers for specific platforms and also possibly generating generic interfaces. Raise of hands of people who have done 146. Cool, all right. So this is the area that would be great for you guys. With L1 peripheral, you'd be developing like a GPIO library or a SPI library or something along those lines. So that's what that would be. The next one would be H2 HAL or L2 HAL. These would be drivers for whatever. It could be a barometer, it could be a heart rate sensor, it could be a whole bunch of different things. The idea is that you would generate and create you create a driver that would use the peripherals, the L1 layer, to do its work. Oops, that's out of place. The next one is L3 application. L3 application is where you build more abstract, higher level features that may utilize utility functions, L2, L1, a whole combination of things. Something that's more on the higher level for application would be like PID controller. It's another abstraction for your PID input, abstraction for your PID output, and then some way to do and churn out the algorithm on the inside. Next one is utility. This involves developing platform agnostic functions and libraries. So if you have not taken 146, and you've not taken any classes or really worked with Arduinos or embedded systems before, this area is perfect for you because of the fact that, well, this kind of application, but this one's pretty good for you because of the fact that it doesn't really require understanding embedded systems for this. And then finally, for this page, we have build systems. If anyone is interested in learning how to build a build system, so learning how to use make files, learning how to make, in a sense, kind of like your own SJ dev environment where you can make builds and it goes and builds all your code together. This would be one area that'd be really awesome for people to work on. So whenever I add like a feature like make test or like be able to test your code or be able to get test coverage like that, that's all build system related stuff. I'm going to try to turn on these lights. So we turn on the back lights. That's still visible?
Yeah.
Okay. The next item is continuous integration. So with continuous integration, you're basically going to be writing scripts that can go in and evaluate your code. A couple examples of what we currently have is a way to lint your code. If you've never heard that before, it means that we will statically analyze your code and see if your code is formatted properly. For example, making sure that if you put a semicolon at the end of each line, your compiler will catch that for you, but let's say you put on the new line, that technically will still compile. So this system will go and say, yeah, your styling is not correct, or your order of includes is not correct, something like that. And then we have another one for testing and so on and so forth. But this is the thing that whenever you submit your code to be merged into SJDev2, this is the gatekeeper before you can even merge your code in. If your code does not pass all of our tests, then it cannot be merged in. And if you worked on continuous integration, you'd work on adding either more things to evaluate, or you'd be working on improving the things that currently exist. There are refactor jobs, which are basically finding and improving style in the code base. And optimization, where you can go through the code base, hunt down points of performance loss, evaluate them, try to come up with a solution, and then try to implement those solutions. One of those could be switching from a lookup table to a set of predefined structures, stuff like that. I have that technique written up in a document somewhere. Don't worry about it for now, though. And that would pretty much be all of the different types of assignments you could have. So again, you always have different levels, doing actual firmware on the top, and in L3 down here is mostly like host-related stuff, or like just general libraries. Then you have things that have to do with build systems and evaluating code and such. Okay. Now I'm going to go on to the development process. It's going to be mostly high level. It's going to be like one slide for the most part. For me, my trusted process is called the V model. I'm going to go over my version of this, but if you look up the V model, my thing is kind of derived from the V model. I believe General Dynamics, the military contracting or defense contracting company, uses the V model. So it comes in a couple of phases. For me, the first one is discovery. This is where, let's say you're given the assignment to work on setting a pin high or low on the STM32 board, some board that I give you, or some board that's available. This stage here would be figuring out, well, how the heck do you even do that? And it doesn't matter what your code looks like. I don't care what your code looks like. It's just trying to see if you can figure out how it operates, how it works. Try to see what's possible. Once you've gotten a kind of a bearing on what it is that you need to do, and or not just what you need to do, but like how to basically do what you need to do, you'll then try to collect requirements and try to come up with an architecture. It's like scrawlings on a piece of paper. This could be whatever you need. This also is not something that I relook at. This is something that is really for you during the process of development. After that, you then use this information to design a design doc. Come up with an appropriate API. Come up with an appropriate set of functions and methods that you will use to support, or that will be used by users to run your driver. This is where I evaluate. I'll look at your design doc to see how you're trying to design something, and then give you recommendations on what you should do differently for it to fit with the model of the Internship, or with the SJDev2. Next, we have implementation and testing. So you'll need to implement your code, actually write it up, make sure it works, load it onto a board, make sure that works, and also write unit tests to boot. And finally, you have code submission, where once it's been tested, you'll then go through the code submission process. You'll try to pull in your code through what's called a pull request. And from there, I'll go and review your code, evaluate it and make sure that it is up to snuff. And when it's finished up and it's ready and it's gone through all the tests and it's approved, then the code can be submitted. We'll go more into this next week when it comes to workflow. More details about how to use Git with our workflow, how to actually do testing, something like that. Okay, so that's pretty much it for what I wanted to go over today when it came to the initial internship program. Before we go into some other parts that go into what's going to be happening in the next couple weeks, as well as like an assignment for you guys, are there any questions about the internship program? Yeah.
I'm not sure how little we dabble between each of the portions for assignments. Like, for example, if I'm working on L1, can I also do something else for testing?
Yeah, sure. So the question was, how much can I dabble between the different layers or between the different assignments? I would say that it would probably be good for your first assignment to just focus on the one. But there's no barrier between working on utility, continuous integration, makefiles. If you want to be able to work on all sets of stuff, that's perfectly fine. So there's nothing holding you down to a particular assignment type. Yes, RJ?
Will the development of this project also require board?
Depends on what you're working on. If you're working on something on utility, most likely no. You can write all your code and have it work on your host machine. Should just port over just fine.
Like L2 or below?
Yeah. At the moment, it is L2. L2 and below is all, for the most part, does not really require it requires a board. Above that, does not really require a board. Yes. Yeah, I'll give that to you after this. Yeah, no problem. The question was, is there any resource that we can go to and basically evaluate like all the different projects and assignments like that? And I'll show you guys the link to where that is in a little bit. Any other questions? I'm gonna check, because I know there's one person who said that they couldn't speak because they're like in a car or on a plane. Well, actually not on a plane, because that wouldn't be bad. That wouldn't be good. Nope, no one's here yet. Cool. Alrighty. I'll move on to the assignment. So, things to go over. You guys can't see that. It's terrible. But if you look up SJSU Dev 2 and you just do a Google search, you will probably find mine. It has the keyword or the name CmpE in front of it. I'm going to click on this real quick. So give you guys an example, show you guys where the things are. So actually, this would be the GitHub. CmpE SJSU Dev 2. You can go to issues. You may think of issues as being like problems with the development environment, but actually the grand majority of these are more like feature requests. At Google, we actually call them bugs. So they're not actually really bugs. They are just things that we can work on. So down here you can see like USB hid mass storage, USB hid keyboard, USB hid mouse, joystick, CDC, system clock, add user coverage, PWM motor, PWM, so on and so forth. And you can see the associated number for the level that it's a part of. Now you may go, okay, well I only want to look for specifically utility or L1 stuff. Well, if you go up to here to labels, and you click on this, you can then go down to L1, click on that, and it'll only show you the stuff that has L1. So that would be timer PWM, pulse capture, thread safe CAN, thread safe GPIO, thread safe UART, and so on and so forth. Oh, sorry. If you do click on 2 though, it'll actually check for things that have both. So you have to kind of uncheck one and check the other. It's a little annoying, but just do that real quick. Let's look up L2 specifically. Got some USB stuff. You got RC servo control. You have a driver for the DRV8801, which is a motor controller. for the MPU 6050, which is accelerometer and gyroscope. Actually, Matt, is it accelerometer and gyroscope, or is it just accelerometer? As well? Cool. Creating something that's an external digital to analog converter, stuff like that. And if you need any of the parts to like work with these things, I will help supply those. The one thing I really can't supply on my own, I am going to see if I can talk to the department, but most likely this is not going to be possible, is the actual SJDev2 boards themselves. So most likely you guys will have to come into SCE and purchase one of them. If you are a CmpE student anyway, you'll end up needing it anyway, so it's not the biggest deal to go and purchase it. But if you're not, I kind of suck. I think there's only like, I think 2 people who are actually part of this that aren't really part of SJSU, but are still part of the internship. So I'll see what we can talk about that later on. But yeah, so you can look through these. A lot of them just have like the name here. If you need more information about what it is that they're doing, I would highly recommend that you post a question on the Slack channel specifically for developers, and ask there like, hey, I want to do this issue. Put the link on here, and it'll. Let's say you have no idea what this is, but you're just kind of curious. You copy the URL, post it here, and what will happen is it should pop up with the information. Sorry, it's a little bit blurry. Wait for that to come up in a sec. It's not going to do it? Oh, it's not going to do it. It usually pops up a little like thing that shows like, oh, this is the issue, and kind of brings the information there. But for the most part, you can post this. I'll click on the link, and if you're asked like, oh, what is it that we'd be working on this? What is required and stuff like that? We can try to negotiate that out. Does that answer your question? Cool. Okay, cool. So this week's assignment is going to be for everyone, if you don't already have SJDev2 installed on your laptop, to install it. And then also read through all the documentation. It's not that much actually, but to read through the documentation to get an idea of how it's formatted. If you do see any spelling mistakes, please send those to me on the documentation channel on Slack, and I'll go and make those changes at some point. Depending on how rushed I was when I was trying to make that little bit of documentation, I might have some spelling errors. I'm pretty sure I spelled hierarchy wrong somewhere in the documentation. You can ignore these sections though. These are specific for each level, so it'll tell you like how to write your code for L0, for L1, for L2. And then make sure that you can run these following commands: make application, platform LPC40, make tests, make test run, make lints, make pre-submit, just to make sure that these things all function properly on your computer. If they do not, post a link on, or post a message on the developer's channel. Post it on there so that I can look at the situation that you're in, because it might be that it doesn't work for your computer. We've buffed out a lot of the issues as of late, but there's still things that pop up with people's environments. So if anything else pops up, hopefully we can try to get rid of any problems. And then last thing to go over is self-assignment. So you guys have the ability, you guys are pretty much up to self-assign yourselves to anything. Also, if you guys have an idea of what you would like to work on that is not inside the list that we currently have, and it's like, oh, I want to like maybe make an abstraction for a quadcopter controller. That could be a thing. Maybe you want to make an abstraction for like some type of like hex pod motor, or maybe you want to like work on a particular chip that you really like a lot. Whatever it may be, you can talk to me about it. You can post an issue and then say, hey, like, something I'm interested in. I would recommend though, starting off with your first thing, doing one of the other projects, and then from there, kind of being able to gauge like how much work it would be to make the other thing. If you've been here and you've done this stuff before, you can assign yourself to whatever. Basically, you need to just add yourself to an issue. You need to have a GitHub account. If you don't, make one. You go over to one of these issues, click on them. On the right-hand side, you'll see assignees, and you can assign people to it. These are the people who are part of the development environment. And when you click on that, it'll assign yourself there, and then I'd also like you to add a comment down here saying, I'm on it, just so that I know that you're working on that particular thing. If for whatever reason you cannot continue to work on that project, just remove yourself as an assignee on that, and then message me so that I know. I kind of get an email anyway, but just message me just to make sure I see it. If you don't know what exactly you want to work on right now, it's fine. Just take the week to think about that. and ask any questions on the developers channel on Slack. Any questions about the assignment and what you guys need to do for next week? You mean the presentation and all stuff like that?
Yeah.
Yes, I will. Yes.
Do we need to be a collaborator in order to have ourselves as assignments? It looks like I can.
Make a comment and see if you can assign yourself after that. I know that after people make a comment on those things, it comes up as someone I can assign to it. So I wonder if you guys can assign to yourselves. So one of the questions was, do you need to be a collaborator in order to add yourself to an issue? And as we're figuring that out right now, actually, but I don't think you should. Yes.
Okay. So what if like two people set assigned to the same task? Is that still possible, or?
You have two options.
They should be isolated.
You have two options. If you want to pair up, if it was by choice, you want to pair up and work on the assignment, then that's totally fine. That's totally doable. If you guys aren't okay with pairing up, we can go up to the 10th Street garage. You guys can just fight to the death up there, and that's perfectly fine. And then whoever survives will be the one who works on the assignment. But no, the idea would be if you guys don't want to work together, just find another assignment. But if you guys are totally fine with working together on the project, it's fine too.
Doesn't seem to work.
Does it seem to work for you? Okay. Just add a comment, and then I will assign you. Yes.
So the documentation is in the GitHub or Slack?
Documentation is in the GitHub. The way that you get to the documentation, so the question was, where's the documentation? And it is right here. So documentation installation guide, see documentation. Also, I don't remember if I put this section here that using a pre-built virtual machine, but if you don't want to actually install it on your machine, you can just download the virtual machine and run everything from there. It should be Ubuntu 18.04, bring it up, may have to update it. If you click on this link here, it'll bring you to the documentation, go to get started, press next, and then just go through all of these. Yes?
Can you just comment on the issue?
If you are interested in that issue, if you're interested in working on that, absolutely.
Well, I mean for like being able to assign it to yourself. Based off what else.
I think it says that even if you make a comment, you still can't assign it to yourself. So I'll have to go over and assign it to you. Because I know if you make a comment, I can assign you to the thing. But I'm surprised that you can't just assign yourself to a thing. I think I heard someone on the video chat have a question or not sure how to install SJDev 2 on laptop. Follow the documentation. If you have any issues, just put a question on the developers channel. Winfeng Ma. So, yeah, there should be instructions there for how to do that.
So I feel like the comment. So just write the comment on GitHub or comment on Slack.
Comment on GitHub. So if you went over here, you go to write a comment, and you'd say like, I'm on it, and then just do comment. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes. Yeah, if you have the cash to buy it today, yeah, you can come down so we can sell it to you. Yes. We do not take card. Yeah. The school does not really allow card transfers for almost all things. They said they're trying to fix that, but at the moment they've been sitting on their butts on that. So. Oh, and just so you guys know, I don't make any money off the SJDev 2 boards. All that really happens is SE puts the money in order to purchase the boards, and they sell them back out, and they just make that money back. So I don't make any money. That's not part. That doesn't happen. Nothing gets over to me. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
This might be a really long question, but for people who are up on 46 last semester, should we update to the current SJDev requirement?
Absolutely, yes. There have been massive changes since last semester. Yeah. Looks like a lot of the folders have been reorganized to be a little cleaner, a little bit flatter of a hierarchy, stuff like that. Yeah.
Mentors?
Mentors? Haven't considered that yet. That'd be a great idea. We can talk later about that, actually. Actually, remind me of something else. Oh, there were a few people who had signed up who asked for things that are maybe not, I wouldn't say valid, kind of like outside the scope of this internship. Is the person who wanted to work on machine learning on this call right now? They here? And then for Brandon, to your question, is the suggestion of the work assignment for those who have not yet taken 126? Oh, 146. Yeah, you're still gonna need to update your repo. So make sure you update your repo to the latest thing. You may wanna move your assignments out of the repo before trying to pull it in destroys all of it. But yeah. And then, well, if the person was here, there's actually this new thing called Tensor Lite, which is basically like a machine learning thing that can work on like embedded systems. I was gonna have that person work on that assignment. That'd be pretty dope. And I think there was one other person, I'm trying to remember. I can't remember off the top of my head. There's another person who was in an interesting spot. Should see. So the question is, where can we obtain the boards? The location would be Engineering 294. 294. If you are going to purchase the boards, send me a message, and I will be there at the time that you are available. I'm usually there on weekends anyway, most of the time. Not this Saturday, but we can schedule up a time for you to come over and pick up the board. So yeah. Paul, I see a hand? You should look at utility. Yeah. I saw another hand over here. Is that you, Nelson? Oh, how much is the board? At the moment, it is 50 denarii. Is that your hand coming up, or? Oh, okay. Every time I see someone go to scratch their head, I'm like, yes.
So what is the schedule going to be like? Like, we're going to meet every week?
So we're gonna have most of our meetings be remote, so you can just like chime in on the video chat. But for the most part, there is no obligation to be here physically. I think just having this one physically, so you guys get to see me, know that I'm real and that I'm around, is useful. I'll be around most days, honestly, in San Jose State. So you can pop into 294. You can pop into 294, and I'll usually be there. And if you want to talk about anything. But there is no requirement for when you have to be here or when we have like dedicated meetings. Most of that stuff will be remote, just for the ease of everyone else. Yes?
As far as previous work,
Yeah.
if there have been new developments for that, would you want to prioritize those first before?
Yes, please. Especially in your case.
Okay.
Yeah. I finish up that driver, man. You also need to unit test that stuff.
Oh yeah.
That's gonna be fun. Actually, so is anyone taking 127, or like just like took 127 last semester? You have? Awesome. Actually, who'd you take it with? Nima. Okay. Okay. There's an assignment. Well, it would have made more sense if you had taken OSMEC, but there's an assignment that I want to give to a 127 person, which is like a parallel bus level 2 abstraction. We can talk about that later. Oh, so Brandon, you took OSMEC? Interesting. Okay, so you're probably more used to that particular abstraction. We can have a video chat sometime. One thing I'll also do is I'm going to make my a specific calendar available. I'm going to post a link to it. Basically, you can add yourself in for a meeting in one of those times. I will try my best to remove, if something comes up during that day and I can't actually be there, I will remove meetings so that you can actually make a meeting, or yeah. So you can't even go and make a meeting, but I'll try my best whenever you do make a meeting to not try to cancel it. Hopefully nothing else happens in my life that requires that. but you will be able to put them an appointment, and then usually we'll just meet here or meet online. That information I'll send out later on. Yes.
So like when say reporting of progress.
Yes.
Specific program you want. So we want to like.
Oh,
Briefly.
Oh, you mean like for the meetings, like for the stand-ups? Yeah, it's just like a brief thing. If you're talking about like for like getting your assignment through, I'll go over that next week. I'll go over the workflow and how you make progress on things.
It's more about like how you communicate.
How you communicate progress? You just tell a couple sentences like, last week I worked on the design doc. It's been reviewed. It's been finished with review, so now I'm working on implementation. I haven't got too far on that. So just kind of putting some things together. That'd be just fine. Yeah. Yes. Nelson just asked about a mentor type system, and I'm considering it to figure out how we can make that work with what we have currently. Was there anyone in here who was going to help out with the Risk 5 stuff? Or was interested in that? Cool. For the most part, when it came to Risk 5, I was going to pretty much limit that to just a few people who I can kind of trust on that one. Just a few people that I want to trust on that one, just because that's going to be a very difficult project to work on. It's not going to be. It's basically 140, but like now you don't have any training wheels. You don't have like a professor there to kind of help you out. I can help you out, but like, it's really just going to be you trying to figure out how to make your own platform with the RISC-V processor and learning the ISA and all stuff like that. Okay. Any other questions? Cool. Alrighty. So that's pretty much it for what I have today. If you guys find your assignment, please put in the comment there. If you want to talk to me about what the assignment is and how it works like that, we can try to make that happen. If I find there's a lot of people who are trying to make meetings at a particular time, we can just kind of group them all up and we can go through quite a few things. Next week, I'll be actually going over a little deeper into the workflow for people who are on L1, the workflow for people who are on L2, stuff like that. So right now, just look for what you're interested in and that you at least have a little bit of experience in. Like if you know how to program, utility's fine. If you know how to do a little bit of programming, you feel like you're pretty decent at it, L3 is fine. If you've done any type of Arduino stuff, L2 should be fine. If you've done 146, L1 should be easy. Yes.
Is this going to be the regular meeting time today, Tuesdays? 6:30?
Yeah, that'll be the same time for next week as well. I will try to have it recorded because right now I'm recording my screen so that and the mic right now so that people can go watch this afterwards. So that if you miss anything, you'll be able to at least see it. So yeah. But next week, Tuesday, since that seems to work for most people, since it's after work and stuff like that. And I think really I'm hoping that there's only one other meeting, one other mostly in-person kind of classroom like this meeting, where I go over most of the training. And then any other thing will mostly be one-on-one or maybe one in a group or something like that. Or potentially during after a stand-up. Any last questions? Cool. All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Have a good evening, and look around and get started on the assignments.